I want to just say, I believe this to be true of all things in life. I mean, everything is a balance, right? And I do think it is super healthy for, okay, let me just preface my preface by saying I have now met couples where the partner, and in this case, no, that's not true. I was going to say the partners have always been the man, but that actually hasn't been true. I have now met, because of my Jeju with Jenna program, of folks who have come to the island on their journey back to Korea. Shameless plug. Come down to Jeju. It's beautiful here, and we have a lot of reflection time in beautiful places and eat delicious food and talk about Korean adoptee stuff on Jeju Island. And so and so again, this is a warning sign for me, and I'm good at picking up on warning signs for myself now, I think. When I first started having clients book time with me on the island, this is supposed to be a very intentional retreat. You and I will sit and look at a beautiful mountain and the ocean after you've just met your birth family, and
Mm,
let's talk about it because I've been there. And you wouldn't imagine how crazy therapeutic that is, right?
sure.
So when I had people say, "Oh, I'm bringing my boyfriend or husband," my first reaction was, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to share something so deeply personal with the person that you're married to?
I mean,
So,
I probably wouldn't have with mine, but that's why we're divorced.
well, yeah, right? So, anyway, but so I have had and I say privilege, and I do truly mean it because I'm learning so much from people that I'm meeting. First of all, I had to get over the hump of understanding that I maybe had an unhealthy view of marriage and men. So that was number one. I probably still do, but I'm working on it. Awareness is key, right? And but
Yes.
then and then opening your brain to there are men out there who are willing to talk to you and maybe do the dishes and support you on a crazy huge existential journey, right? Okay. So I put a pin in that. So when everything is a balance. So I do think a good partner is going to recognize, you know what, my wife does need just a little time to be on these Zoom calls right now. Cool. That's something I don't need to be involved with. I'm not a Korean adoptee. That's a safe space. But then afterwards, I'm going to be curious and ask you about it and say, you need some time to process? Great. What can I do to help you in that? So I think it can be both. I don't think I'm saying, and I think it's more than appropriate. Tell me if I'm wrong. I think it's more than appropriate for adoptees to go to the adoptee conferences and motherland tours alone and not have to take care of someone else emotionally during your first trip to Korea. I do think that's more than appropriate.
Yes.
And the next time, bring your supportive partner to say, I want to share this with you. And
Hmm.
I'm going to go home to wherever I live after my conference or motherland tour and say, here are all the friends that I just met. Here are all the experiences I just had. Let's have maybe our own little date night or weekend retreat where I tell you about it and you're genuinely curious and you're
Hmm.
not just going to ignore me. Um, so it's both and balance. I think the warning sign of not bringing your partner along is if none of that occurs to you and you just cut them out entirely. And then we get into dangerous territory where now you're sharing everything with somebody else, and maybe they happen to, you know, maybe they happen to be someone whose face you also think is cute. I mean, we start to get into dangerous territory,
Sure.
and we might push the boundaries as much as we can because we're just trying to survive and feel good and supported. And that's where it can start to, that's where it can start to get, I say dangerous, not like
It's a slippery slope.
slippery slope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a benefit to taking your partner along to some of these events too, right? So there's a lot of local groups who will meet up for dinner or lunch or just an occasional outing on the weekend. And I've seen a lot of them bring their spouses. I think those environments are really great for your partners because now they have a support in other spouses, right? And they can compare notes. They can sit at the other end of the table, excuse me, while you are with your CAD friends talking about CAD things
Hmm.
and trying to catch up on the recipes and the books and whatever it is, and the latest thing that you have learned that is Korean. And then they can be sitting on the other end of the table, like, man, I don't know how we're going to pay for all these conventions. And she wants to go to Korea next year. Have you seen how much those tickets are? I'm too old. I'm too old to fly economy.
No, for real, for real. And it's not, this is a whole other episode too. It's not just our partners, it's our parents, it's our siblings, it's our kids. Like everyone is impacted when you start to go that. But the problem is when you're thrown into it and you're not being intentional about it. I mean, that was my, I didn't, I th April, I thought I was going to on a free vacation to Korea. I had no effing idea what I was getting myself into. I went in totally blind, not paying attention, like most things in my life, and then came out the other end with an anvil dropped on my head.
Mm,
So there was zero way I could ever anticipate that something was going on for me, let alone everyone else in my life. So not only did I not have the tools to communicate that to myself, I couldn't do it to my husband. And then we didn't have the foundation to begin with to talk about like weekend plans sometimes, let alone this huge thing.
hmm
So I think, if we're talking about take home messages, just having a lot of awareness of how this is impacting other people in your life, being really intentional, not taking that for granted. And next level is what you just said. Are there people that you can connect your partner to? Because I think, I mean, I say this a little tongue in cheek, but a support group for partners,
hmm
them having their own Zoom, probably not as intense as ours, but or as long and codependent. But gosh, if he had been willing and open, and if I had had any sense or any, tools or thought about it to say, like, here is this husband of another Korean adoptee who's on, who just started. And I met a whole 30 of us on that tour I went on. And I'm sure all of their in fact, I know all of their partners were going through the same thing because a lot of us are now divorced and separated now.
mm.
We could have been really intentional about that. No, I don't know that it would have saved our marriage, but it could have gotten us to a place of quicker healing and understanding instead of things just blowing up.
Well, sure.
Yeah, so I appreciate this conversation because so much of it is about you don't know what you don't know.
hmm
So anyone listening who might be in a situation of like newly discovering a lot, entering this community, because let's face it, I mean, us Korean adoptees, a lot of us are doing it in middle age.
Yeah.
The Vietnamese folks, the Chinese adoptees, there's a lot of South American adoptees, except, I mean, a lot of them are a lot younger and their parents are our age.
hmm
And so they had the internet longer, the world was bigger longer, and they have people who are a little bit more in tune with let's not just slap a one sentence narrative on this. Let's really talk about how this is impacting everyone from things that are squishy and identity and things that my boomer parents are just not interested in talking about.
hmm
So that's why I was 40 when I first started thinking about these things, right? And we
Well,
already have lives. I already had a life. I had a whole life. I had like not it wasn't white, but I had like a white picket fence
hmm
with a patio that's bigger than my current apartment in Korea. I was a mayor. I had two kids. I had paid off my student loans. I had a master's degree. I had all these things. And now my life is completely upended itself because I didn't have the foresight to like think about how this would impact me. I mean, I'm very happy where I am, but you see what I mean. By the way, not everybody you don't have to go this big in order to change. You don't You don't
yeah.
have to move to a different country, get a divorce, and find your own place and be unemployed in Korea in order to find yourself. That's just the option I took, It doesn't mean that you have to go there.
Well, and you also don't have to like start being an activist in the community or have a podcast. You can just be here and
Yes.
and take part. I think a lot of people feel the need to tell their story, so they want to do something. But the drawback is people listen and people read. And sometimes those people are your family. And sometimes that can be a little icky. And same thing with friends. Your relationship with your parents probably wasn't as great as you thought that it was, because now that narrative of like them being saviors and you being so blessed is being stripped away. And when you take away that obligation, there's just, depending on your experience, and depending on the circumstances of your adoption, because we all have different stories there too, and it can make you a little bitter for a minute and a little resentful towards adoption, towards your parents, and they probably have done everything to the best of their ability. And now all they see is that their child is like, no, you it wasn't good enough, and I hate all of this, and I'm mad at you, and I'm mad at the system, and I'm just mad.
I can say very few things with confidence, but what it is it feels really unsafe emotionally to our entire lives and foundation of who we know we are to be challenged at 70 something years old about something we did 40 plus years ago that we thought was a good thing. And by the way, we love our kid. They are our daughter, they're our son, they're our children. How can you possibly challenge me on this new thing about a system that I may have taken part in? Not to mention, I actually have I have a really good adoptee friend who's like a sister to me. Her mom is in her 80s, and her mom was able to say the words out loud. I cannot watch that documentary about babies being ripped away from their mothers in Korea. I cannot imagine that would have been your story. And I can't do it. And I thought that was so good that she was able to come to that, say it out loud, share it with her daughter. And that was it. And honestly, that was enough for my friend. It was enough for me. It gave me healing. Anything that I just think we do everything we can to emotionally protect ourselves. And it would be some shit if, so as an example, this is not apples and apples, but my daughter was born through an IUI. We had a little bit of trouble having her and just had to have a little extra assistance. I was older, I was geriatric, It was relatively easy to conceive her through a little help of some science and fertility.
Hmm.
And my daughter, she's real hard to parent sometimes. She's 6, going on 14. It's my fault. I let her watch YouTube. But I would walk through fire for her or her brother. I would throw myself out of a plane if I thought that they would never feel emotional pain in their life.
Hmm.
And if you told me that I did something wrong by her existence using like extra medical support, just as an example, I don't
Sure.
think anyone's ever going to tell me that. And I don't think it's
Right.
true. But like if that were, if somebody were to tell me that, I'd be like, F you and the horse you rode in on. Like, you know?
That's my baby.
So
I love her.
yeah, exactly. So this is apples and oranges, is not the same thing, but I'm trying to use like an example that would be personal to me. And yeah, I'd be real defensive about that. And who cares how she got here? I love her.
Hmm.
And not to mention, like there were people who helped along the way, and how am I going to feel bad about that? So I think about the Netflix show Stranger Things. Good show, very nostalgic, especially if you grew up in the 80s and 90s. Fantastic. Second season gets a little scary, but the first season, it's if you're not familiar, one of the main characters ends up in the upside down. So it's like the same world that his friends are in, but he's seeing everything flipped on its head in a really scary way. So here's an example. Growing up with Your birth mother loved you so much that she wanted a better life for you and gave you away. The upside down is my birth mother loved me so much that she gave me away? What the fuck? What? And so, if you're listening to this and you're not an adoptee, that is just one tiny little piece of having to question our reality, right? And I know my parents, I mean, we don't have a mature enough relationship to have these conversations in depth, but I know there is some real judgment there. Our daughter now lives in Korea, which means we cannot spend Christmas with our grandkids.
Mm.
And she's there to partially build a relationship with the people who sent her away. We are the people who adopted her and gave her piano lessons and a college education and a beautiful home in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. What do you mean I mean, but also the both and, of course they understand, like, that it's important for me to be here. Of course, I mean, they're not monsters. Of course they understand. But again, lots of complicated
Well,
factors.
sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think with my mother, she would be terrified of being replaced.
Mm,
You
mm-hmm.
know, that's she has her own abandonment issues that I don't think she was able to heal. So that amplifies it even more. But yeah, as a parent, I can imagine it would be very difficult. Just like with a spouse, you want them to go and do and explore, but at the same time, you're afraid of being left behind and forgotten or replaced. What does this mean for our relationship type of situation, right?
It's very real, and I think we probably don't listen to the stories of the partners enough. I will call them out. Patrick in the World on the John Chi show, they had an episode, great podcast, shout out. They helped me through a lot of hard times. They had an episode where their partners, non-adopted partners, got on a episode together.
Oh,
And yeah, it's great. I don't know what episode it is. We can put it in the show notes, but it was really good because it was either that podcast or another interview where Patrick's wife, was saying like, here are my fears, and there was a time where Patrick was like on, in the community a lot, and like they were either newly married or, it was early in their relationship,
right.
and her insecurities about how she felt. I mean, it was really, really lovely for her to share some of that because I do think it's hard to say out loud, I have insecurities. I like you want to believe that you and your partner, especially your spouse, are like rock solid, like,
Right.
and it is humbling to have to admit, I am scared about some of the things. Like, there are a lot of attractive people in this community. Like, what happens if my husband or my wife finds someone different? I think there's all kinds of fears because guess what? We all have insecurities. Our spouses do too.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the kicker is if they really, really love us and are afraid to lose us, they're certainly not going to step on our toes, similar to what you said before, and risk saying or doing something, quote, wrong because they don't want to push us away. So we're all really trying to do the best we can. And unfortunately, we make the wrong decisions sometimes, looking back. Even when we're making the wrong decisions in the moment, we justify it to ourselves. And so, can we be a voice for people just starting off in this community to recognize some of these signs,
Mm.
so that maybe you can have a little bit healthier of a relationship with your parents or your partner or your kids or whatever as we go through this. I've seen adoptees do this very well.
It's
I've
possible.
seen adoptees do this very, very well. I have friends whose kids are older, and so their kids, their
Hmm.
descendants of Korean adoptees have been able to really come along on the journey.
Yeah,
Like I said, I've seen spouses do this really well, and in a very condescending way, probably, but I don't mean it that way. I have said to those partners, can we just toast to the partners who are being excellent support systems?
for
Like,
sure.
I mean, I think it's fantastic. Yeah.
Well, it's a lot. Also, I mean, let's be real. a lot of adoptees are women, which means a lot of these spouses are men. And at least, and not to speak ill of the male gender,
We are
but
not doing that in this episode. No.
it is it is not common in my experience to come across men who are just, let me support you, let me pick up the slack and do these things, so that, especially if you have kids, so that you can go be present at these events, so that you can have an hour or two every week to spend with these people, so that you feel connected, to make up for all of this lost time that you had, to go to lunch and meet, so and so, like, or to even go with you. There's a lot of respect, like you said, I think that should be given to spouses who are willing to, like,
Mhm.
truly support it. Because the ones who I've seen do it, like, they don't play around with it. They're there carrying the dishes in from the car at the potlucks. Not saying that women aren't doing it too for men so that they can run off, because I think as women we have our own challenges in order to be supportive of men. Our husbands who are running off to conventions and we don't know, and they might be meeting women who look younger even if they're not, because Asian don't raisin. Um, we're pretty
Yeah,
people.
if any if any of you are listen, if any of you are partners of men in heteronormative relationships and you think, "Oh my gosh, all these women he's meeting are so young." We're not. We just
We're
look like
not.
we
I would imagine it would be very, very difficult to be like, yeah, I trust you to go, like, drink with these women all night. I mean, we have quite a few guys in our group, but that's not very common. So
are. No, I don't think it
it would
is.
typically be one man for every, what, 15, 20 women?
It's a great odds if you're a man.
Yeah. And so, like, you're swimming in it at this point. And if you're half decent looking, like, you're going to get a little bit of attention just because at least 10 of them are looking at you because they've never looked at Korean men before. And now there is one that they think, oh, you're kind of cute. So, yeah, it's a different kind of challenge, I would imagine, for the female spouses, especially if you don't have a lot of communication with each other. I'd be mad as hell if, like, I've been trying to get you to have real deep talks with me and one-on-ones and go to dinner and, like, give me undivided attention for just 1 hour, and now you're, like, dedicating essentially your entire life to these people who I don't really even know.
Even if you even if you had a really rock solid foundation with your partner, let's be honest, it's hella weird. Our community can be really weird.
It
Like when I
can.
tell my friend, I mean, even if things are great, you and I, we're awesome. We talk, we share feelings. I'm giving you space, you're giving me space. We check in with each other, all the things. Even if you were doing it, you know, to to perfectly, it's weird. I had to tell my friends the other day. Oh, I was on a video. What'd you do yesterday, Jenna? Oh, I was on a video call with a couple of my friends. Oh, that's cool. How long was it? Oh, it was all day. What do you mean it was all day? Oh, well, it was nighttime for my friends, and it was Saturday for me, and I didn't have the kids. So we just sat on a video chat for 7.5 hours. Is that not normal?
No.
It's weird, April. We're very weird.
It is weird. My doctor was concerned when I mentioned it. They were like, I'm sorry, what? I was
It
like,
just
yeah,
happens.
it just happens. And sometimes we drink. They're like, wait, so you get on calls to drink? I was like, no, no.
No, not to drink.
To
It just happens
it
that way.
just
There's
it
peer
just
pressure.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah, like when I first started chit-chatting with people, and it was a running joke, and now it's just normal. My friends, my non-adoptee friends in Pennsylvania kind of would say, which stranger on the internet is Jenna meeting for lunch today? So even in the best case scenario, it's weird. I mean, I have not come across any of my other friends in different communities who are doing this in like niche communities the same
Mm.
way that we are. I mean, I have friends, like one of my best friends has a lot of, health, really specific health issues. So there's Reddit forums, there's Facebook groups, there's medical thing. She's not meeting up with these people and getting on Zoom calls, you know? I mean, do you know what I mean? So it's weird,
What
April.
somebody said once, like if you ever wanted to abduct a cat, all you had to do was like advertise for a meetup or invite
Yeah.
somebody to lunch.
True. It's very true. I had that happened to me that I didn't get abducted, but that happened to me during COVID because there's the buy nothing or marketplace Facebook groups, and so my husband at the time had to run off to work. It was a Saturday, and it was kind of like when thing you could like go see people, but like you still stood outside and stood away. He literally was like, "Hey, Jenna, someone's giving away someone tried a 4 pack of beer. They didn't like it. They're giving away like 3 beers. It's just down the road. Do you have time to go pick it up?" I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go pick up some some good beer. Sure, for free. Great. I got nothing else to do. So he messages her back and she goes, "Hey, are you married to Mayor Jenna, who's a Korean adoptee?" And he was like, "Yeah, whatever." So as I'm on my way there, I messaged some friends and I was like, "Oh God, is this an abduction? Because this would be the way to take me in a white van. We're giving away free beer, and I'm a Korean adoptee. Come talk to me." I mean, I'm just saying, I have
Yeah.
flown to Thailand to meet people I've never met in person who are Korean adoptees to hang out with them. Like,
So yeah, it's very easy to get sucked in. Like here in Cleveland, I met a CAD just by posting on the internet. Well, let's go get tea. And then you're sitting there and you're realizing that like, oh, I didn't if this were a date, I would have done way more background checking.
yeah.
I didn't even verify that she was
Yeah.
real. I didn't. She just said, "Hey, I'm a CAD. Let's meet." I was like, "Cool." And I was like, "Well, at least we're in public, so yeah."
I know. It's an unusual situation that we found ourselves in, and because it is so niche, I do, and because we have a lot of us have similar experiences, similar upbringings, similar communities, we married similar people. There is there is something to be said for like watching some of this unfold.
Hmm.
And I think I want to say the more I put my story out there, because I don't care, the more people reach out to me and say, same. And then the more people who do that, you're like, oh. And so, like a couple of years ago, I didn't feel comfortable talking about it because I was sort of in the thick of it. But I don't think it's a coincidence that so many of us are feeling this way. I'm in several Korean adoptee, like little chat groups. And I will tell you, the majority of us are not married. The majority of us in like the 3 or 4 groups that I'm in are either getting a divorce, divorced, remarried, wanting to be divorced. There's a whole group of folks who are in that camp as well. It's not so easy just to leave your life, right? This is not an accident. And so, how do we have these conversations honestly so that folks who could avoid, who don't I don't want, if the relationship's not good, the relationship's not good. But if you are well intentioned and wanting to, both of you, to work on things and meet each other where they are, I have also seen people, I can think of a couple examples off the top of my head, who could easily have gone down the path of like me and my ex, but didn't. Like, we worked through it. We took some time apart, but we worked through it. We're back and we get it now. It is possible. It takes some growing pains and it takes two people really wanting to like, like in any situation,
Hmm.
but it is possible. I also don't, because I don't want people to hear like, well, I'm in consciousness now. I'm a Korean adoptee in the community, so that means my relationship is doomed. I don't want people to hear that either,
No.
because it's not true. There's plenty of people making it work and doing it, and it's hard. But if it weren't this, there's all kinds of things that can upend a relationship. It's just that this happens to be the particular thing that could be it for us. If your relationship is not good, it could be anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that this adds so many complex layers and variables that are just not typical to another factor in someone else's relationship. Oh, we moved. I started a new job, taking care of an elderly parent, which, by the way, adoptees are going through all that stuff too on top of
Right?
this. Yeah. So it's just an acknowledgement of how complex this can really be. And so if you're going into it from either side as a loved one of an adoptee, you don't have to memorize any of this. You don't have to read any articles. You don't have to read any research studies. You don't have to listen to anything, but you do have to be aware that it's complex. And so you have to ask your partner, what's going on with you? Because I know it's complex, even if you have not acknowledged it yet. That's it. That's the take home message. You don't have to memorize anything else from this hour conversation. When you start to understand yourself better
Mm.
and you become more confident about who you are, because I don't know about you, but I spent a long time overcompensating, keeping myself busy to ignore a lot of big things that were going on in my brain because, again, they didn't feel safe. Again, all about emotional safety. So when you come on the other side of that or start to, you start to tolerate less, you start to stand up for yourself more. And as a really good friend of mine says, liberation works both ways. Your partner thought they married someone else, you thought you were someone else when you got married. That's just the reality. I think my relationship had another 5, 6 years in it. I don't think we would have gone the distance for a lot of reasons. But I think if I had not started the nail in the coffin was me starting this journey. Because things were status quo. We had a rhythm, we had our assigned chores, we had what worked for us. But let to be we were leading separate lives, but it was working for us.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly I had to go on this what I thought was going to be a free trip to Korea. You know?
Dun, dun, dun,
I
dun.
know. Good golly.